number 2. I'm joined alongside by long-time Formula V commentator Steve DeFries. Steve, welcome to day 2 of racing action here at Winton.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, and I think a lot of people would have looked out their curtains this morning, seen the rain on the ground and thought, great, this is going to be a good day, but you can see the track is drying. Let's have a look at this grid because there's been a few changes from overnight. So your winner yesterday, Michael Kinsella, starts off the pole. He won by about 5 seconds over Simon Pace. Ash Clifford has now been promoted to third. That was originally where Andre Curran finished yesterday, but we've had some word come through in the last few minutes that there was that contact between himself and Blake Purvis yesterday morning, or yesterday afternoon rather, and that has given him a 10-second penalty from the start of that race. So that drops him to 5th. So Clifford and Windsor elevated to 3rd and 4th. Curran now starts 5th next door to Grant Kelly, and Ash Quiddington and Blake Purvis starting on row 4 there, 7th and 8th. So that's just breaking news as we go to air this morning. Over the page to Brock Hamilton and Jason Kay out of 9th and 10th. Then the returnee, Mitch Quiddington. Good to have him back in the saddle after a decade away. Nathan Jones in 12th, ahead of his stablemate Declan Collison out of the Sabre Racing Team group of cars. Matt Harriott from Queensland, they're starting 14th. Charlie Richardson, she'll be one of the ones that would have been praying for rain overnight. She might get her wish a little bit later on this afternoon. And then 16th is Mick Fisher. As we saw in the background there was Nathan Jones having a little moment out there on track, looping his car. Darren Power, David Temmie, Cameron Bell, Corey Horder, Matt Ganji, the only 1200 class car out there this weekend in 21st, Ken Morrison and Ivan Vitti. And then the 2 non-finishers from yesterday's race. We saw that contact between Daniel Reynolds and Alex Bezic up here at turn number 11. It eliminated Alex Bezic on the spot, broke the front steering arm clean away from the front part of the left wheel hub, and they've repaired that car. And Daniel Reynolds soldiered on, but with a damaged suspension, which eventually gave way about a lap or 2 from home. And they had to bring that car back to the paddock on the flatbed. They're a little bit worried that they may have actually punctured the fuel tank in that car, because when it came back, it was leaking a little bit of fluid. It turned out it was just one of the fuel filter with one of the threads that gotten a bit damaged, I think, in the whole process of unloading and unloading the car from the truck. So they've been able to fix that up. So car 78 right to go there on your right of screen, and the other car, number 26, Alex Bezic, right to go there out of 25th. So watch out for those 2 coming through from the rear. They'll be quick.
Clear visors on for the race this morning. Wet conditions and dark, gloomy clouds looming over Winton Motor Raceway. We're set to get a green flag at the back. There it is. We have car 35 lining off from pole position with Simon Pace alongside, and we are set for a start here for the second race of the Formula Vs.
And away we go, and a very timid start. You can see there was actually a really good start for Ash Clifford off of 3rd position, right behind Michael Kinsella. Is he going to have a bit of a shot down the inside here at turn number 1? He does. He actually picks up the 2nd spot. Kinsella with a poor getaway from position number 1. Goes all the way back to 4th behind Malachi Windsor. He might yet lose another spot on the run down the hill here into turn number 3 with Blake Purvis challenging, but ultimately just withdraws for a moment, and when the gap opens up, he fills that gap very briefly as number 93, Grant Kelly, had to catch a fistful of oversteer there, as it's very, very difficult in the early going here at turns 3 and 4. Some parts of the track are dry, some parts of the track are wet. Was that Kinsella spun around on the exit of turn 4? There was a stationary car. There's 2 stationary cars. One of them's Alex Bezic, who's come to a stop on the old pit straight between turns 2 and 3. And which car is it coming
Malachi.
back onto the third? Yes, it's Malachi Windsor. Sorry, miscalled that car. It was a dark-coloured car. It went very, very quickly. Thought for a moment it might have been Kinsella. It was actually Windsor out of position number 3. The 88 machine out of the Acura Motorsports stable with a great start. Unfortunately, come to turn 4's exit, he's around the wrong way.
So unfortunate there for Alex Beswick, pulled up on the short run between turns 2 and 3. Perhaps some lingering issues after yesterday's race, and also Ivan Vitti, I believe.
Yep,
hasn't gone anywhere from the grid. So we've got 3 cars with early dramas. Unfortunately, Malachi Windsor has pretty much lost out the most of this group after running P3 and then ran off the road at the exit of turn 4, so drops all the way towards the tail of the field. Blake Purvis here under attack from car 35.
He's gotten past Michael Kinsella in that opening skirmish, so he's done well there. Opened up a couple of car lengths margin. There's some local yellow flags out. That's just for the recovery crews trying to get that car off the circuit. We've now gone safety car. So the recovery teams, we do thank them for all the work that they do. They were very hastily trying to use the recovery vehicles to try and clear these cars before the field came around. Unsuccessfully, though, a little bit too delayed. There's the Windsor incident. Oh, hard to tell. He's spinning like a top. He's done, I don't know, it's probably a 1080 there on the exit of turn number 4. Very unusual. Couldn't quite see whether there was another car involved or whether it was self-inflicted, but that's what happened to the number 88 Jacer. He's gone around on turn number 4. You're right, Ivan Vitti didn't get away from the grid. Looks like the car may have stalled. And Alex Beswick did get away from the rear of the grid, but then just got a very, very slow drive out of turn number 2 and very quickly realised something wasn't right, pulled over to the grass on the driver's right there as they came up towards turn number 3, which is where the recovery vehicles are stationed, so that's why they were trying to recover pretty quickly and get him out of harm's way, but then the Ivan Vitti machine that needed to be recovered out of off the front straight unfortunately meant that for safety's sake, the racer industry's safety car had to be deployed.
Super start there from Daniel Reynolds. I was just counting how many cars he had passed on the opening lap and a half there, and it was at least 10 cars, not factoring the stricken Alexander Beswick and Ivan Vitti, which came to a halt before reaching turn 1. There is Beswick on the old pit straight, just pulled in there. So that recovery is all done, and I reckon there is a chance we go racing this lap, a short, sharp safety car. Here's another replay. That is Beswick, way off the road.
Yeah, so because we didn't, that would have been going straight on at turn number 1. So because we didn't see too far back in the field, that's a great angle to show just what happened there. That's almost a signal of no brakes.
And here we go, lights out on the safety car. Yeah, it did look like no brakes. He just went straight on. There is a slight rise just before you get to turn 1 at the 100-metre board, so perhaps he just danced on the rear brakes ever so slightly too much, and that car went off at a huge amount of pace.
Timing's just a little bit up the creek at the moment here. You can see Ivan Vitti at the top of the leaderboard, but unfortunately he has been pulled in to the pit lane complex from what we understand. So that will change once we get up and going again. Simon Pace, it's had a couple of moments just to wipe the visor there before we get underway again. And he goes and goes early. Right before turn number 12, he puts the hammer down with Clifford right behind him. And Purvis now under assault from the number 35 and yesterday's race winner Kinsella. Right in his wheel tracks though, he's got to be careful because the reigning number 1 from last year, Kieran. Oh, big moment for Collison in the number 30.
Wow.
Oh, somehow found the gap.
Off the road. Charlie Richardson off the road. It's all going on here down at turn 1. Charlie was under big pressure there from Daniel Reynolds storming through the field, but at least 3 cars have gone off at turn 1 in these wet conditions.
Tricky conditions. Somehow the number 30 of Jones found the gap between the 2 cars. That was Kinsella and the number 6 of Purvis that had just opened up, and another car stricken on the outside of turn number 3 as we went past. It's Mitch Quiddington. That's buried up to its axles. That's not going anywhere. This will be another safety car.
So too much red cordial, very similar to yesterday's racing here. All drivers making mistakes in these tricky, wet, greasy conditions. If you're going to make a move, it's got to come now. The safety car has already been deployed, so car 12 there will have to relinquish that spot back to Andre Kieran.
Yeah, they had their hands up to let them know that they'd seen the yellow flags, and that usually means you need to stay where you are. So that's, I think, the signal there to say, yep, the engine's cut out. And Mitch Quiddington, been out of the saddle for a decade, has unfortunately going nowhere. Have a look at this. How on earth did this car find the gap? I think that's just good presence of mind from Michael Kinsella. He saw something was not right, and he was able just to drag the brake a little bit and just create that gap and avoid the contact. That could have been disastrous.
Could have been absolutely disastrous there. Grant Kelly and also Charlie Richardson following him off in sympathy there. A little bit of a wide moment through the puddles under safety car conditions there.
That's a 1200. That's a 1200 of Matt Ganji that's just gone a little bit wide there ahead of Malachi Windsor. Down to turn number 11 and 12 now for the rookie this year. As you said, I think just a little bit too much red cordial. We talked about this yesterday, but it is very tricky at the moment, these conditions. I look out there and you can see parts of the circuit, like look here, it looks dry in certain parts, but
it's
there's a little bit wet.
It's very greasy.
Absolutely deceiving how dry it actually is. It's actually still quite greasy. It's very wet offline. You can see the evidence there from a few drivers that have gone off to the sides of the circuit. You can see even just around the edges of the circuit, it's still very, very wet. So you'd be very much mistaken if you didn't treat these conditions with some respect. There's Reynolds in the 78. He's made some great progress from the rear of the grid. He's now up to position 9. So starting 24th, he has made light work of the field, but it gets a little bit tougher from here, I think. And the longer this goes on under safety car, he's going to be anxious to get going. He wants to pick up some of those points. He needs to probably get another couple of positions. He'll be targeting somewhere, I would say, around Andre Keir and Ash Whittington. If he could get to there by the end of the race, maybe in front of those guys, I think he will be pretty happy with his morning's work.
There's been a lot of drivers towards the front of the grid that had lost out during the start of the race, notably Malachi Windsor and Grant Kelly, who have fallen outside the top 10 after starting 4th for Malachi. He had that massive spin on the exit of turn 4, and Grant Kelly also running off at turn 1. Grant's running in 13th position in car 93 there, the Stinger, and further down the order is the recovering Malachi Windsor.
Look at them using the outside line here as well. Typically the karting line, they call that. They're trying to avoid any water that may have pooled toward the inside of that curb at turn 9. Just trying to keep their powder dry here for a little bit. And just avoiding all those curbs. That's the big key thing in conditions like this. You don't want to get too far up on these curbs. They will be quite slippery. There's some elevated curbs, there's some flat curbs, but there's also the nature of these ripple strip curbs. They literally hold some of the water in them, so you don't want to spend too much time using them up because they will spin you around at a moment's notice.
Lights are out on the safety car, so car 50 of Simon Pace from Queensland has control over the field from Ashley Clifford. He has seen a green flag, so has put the right foot to the firewall, and he has bolted, and he's opened up a couple of car links there over Clifford. Under attack there from Purvis, who was still weaving when the safety car lights went out, so perhaps something race control might look at later. He's actually going to go for a move here down the inside of the 17 at turn 1, a little earlier on the brakes though, and thinks better of that.
Yeah, I think they've realised now that it's too tricky to go too hard too early into turn number. Position number 2 for the youngster, and his first year in the Joust race, where number 6, and he now tries to set off after the number 50 of Simon Pace. That'll be interesting to see whether he's got anything for the much more experienced New South Welshman.
Yeah, doing a fantastic job there is Blake in position number 2 now, fighting the wheel.
Here comes Whittington down the inside. He had a little bit of a half-hearted look at the 35 of Kinsella. He wasn't close enough to make a move there. Round the Gumtree section we go. Kinsella right glued to the gearbox here of the number 17 of Clifford. He is under some heat though from the 12 of Ash Whittington, who himself is in front of his title rival in the Victorian Trophy Tour Championship, Andre Keir.
Blake Purvis absolutely using his karting experience to run around the outside of the circuit, predominantly staying off the apexes where there is slightly less grip in these wetter conditions. Of course, the rubber lying on the outside of the circuit gives you a little bit more grip in these wet, greasy conditions that the drivers are finding pretty challenging this morning. It's not raining at the moment, but it has left the track in some pretty tricky, greasy conditions, like you can see there on the exit curve, flicking up a lot of spray there.
It's the white lines that are holding the water. They're not going onto the curb, but it's that painted white line that's still very, very slippery, so you be very careful when you apply the power. It's a similar situation to places like Phillip Island, where it gets very, very wet offline, and if you start to get on those painted white lines and put too much power down, it does inevitably turn the car around. Pace with a healthy advantage at the moment, 3.4 seconds last time around. Where's Daniel Reynolds in all of this? Here he is, looking at the back of the number 30 of Nathan Jones. He'll probably slip on by here down to turn number 4. No, thinks better of it. Could see all that water on the inside there at the curb, and very, very wisely thought better of it. I think the move might be coming at turn number 7. Through this big, long technical corner, this multi-apex corner. Got to tuck it down technically. Oh, bit of a moment for Jones there.
Spin up Purvis and Kieran.
Yep, there's something that's gone on just ahead of here. And yes, Kieran off the road at turn number 7, waiting for a gap to try and feed back off behind Grant Kelly.
And another car off in the background there, so it's all going on, just trying to see if that was Blake Purvis that has spun, and I believe it has, because Clifford in car 17 has gone through to position number 2. Just behind him there is the 12.
Yeah, he has. So there you go. So Purvis must have had a moment, and then Kieran followed in sympathy, waiting to see where the number 6 happens to be. That elevates Clifford up to P2. After yesterday's results were changed overnight this morning, he believes that was his first podium finish in about 2 years or so, going all the way back to Sandown in 2024, so he was very happy with that. He could actually now get a podium potentially on his own merit here if he can hang on to either P2 or P3, but he's going to be under some serious heat now down the front straight from the number 12, Ash Quiddington, who is really making hay while his title rival is down for the count further down the order, slipping down the order on the timing on your left-hand side of the screen there, as you can see, now down to position number 10 as the times continue to tumble for him. There goes the number 12. He gets through. Reynolds is making a little bit of progress here. He's still tucked up behind Jones, though. Kinsella looking left, looking right, no way through. And Hamilton's now on his gearbox as well. There's Purvis, who you said had that spin there. And Reynolds has not been able to find a way past Jones, so that surprises me.
Yeah, it's surprising that he hasn't been able to claw through any more positions after starting off the rear of the field. In fact, position 24. He's made his way up to 9th. Grant Kelly, that's Jason Kay in car 81, just ahead of that group.
Certainly is. So Clifford down to P3, Quiddington up to P2 at the start of this lap. Kinsella has got the lead at the moment in the point standings for the Australian Series, but he is going to lose a little bit of that advantage as they stand right now position-wise. It'll be very, very close. The point scheme is very, very different. You get 100 points if you attempt qualifying, which of course every driver bar one did yesterday, and then the point score was actually updated this year compared to last year for the Australian Series to cater for a better split when it comes to more than 3 races in a round, because sometimes there are 4 or 5 races. The typical 3-race round, you get now 150 points for a win. You get a maximum 150, 40
that was
points
brewing.
That was brewing.
Watch out for the rejoin.
Right there. Thankfully, the soft, soggy infield has been able to arrest those cars. A bit difficult to see from that angle what was going on, but all we do know is there was some contact between Kinsella and the 17 of Clifford on the run between turn 10 and turn 11. You're right, Michael was probably going to look to get a little bit of overlap there and maybe force a move at some point, but it's a bit difficult to see from that angle who was really responsible for the contact.
Yep, hard to tell, and we'll definitely leave that up to the stewards. Here comes Brock Hamilton trying to go around the outside of Quiddington. This is for
position
the second spot on the podium, and he's going to try and go the long way around. That's going to put him on the slippery painted curb, and that's a no-go around the exit of turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, that was always going to be a brave decision to go right around the outside there of the number 12 at turn 3 and 4, because you're right, you have to run out onto that ripple strip, so you're taking a huge risk in the wet because it holds all the water. What about down the inside here at turn number 7? Covered. Quiddington realised that was an opportunity that he needed to head off quickly, and he did. Switch back though. Hamilton got a little bit of overlap here. Can he go the long way around at the gum tree and be in position to take the spot at turn number 9? Again, a brave move sideways for the number 11. Unfortunately, that little sideways moment just cost him having the nose of the Sabre 02 up alongside the number 12.
Super race from both these boys. Quiddington started out of position number 7, Brock Hamilton out of position number 11. So both made their way through the field, and they're on the podium as it stands. At the front, though, it is Simon Pace with a 10-second margin, just in control of this race.
Yeah, he's unchallenged at the moment. He's not even in the shot. He's actually well and truly onto the front straight. We believe the checkered flag is waving, and it is. There he goes. So Simon Pace with a victory. So 2 wins to New South Wales this weekend. There's Malachi Windsor, who'd come into pit lane and rejoined. And Hamilton, he's got the job done. Unsighted, we were busy looking at Simon Pace. Hamilton has got the chocolates over Quiddington at the last 2 corners.
Purvis got back to position number 4 there. Clifford in 5th. Jason Kay and the nose cone off of car number 1 there of Andre Kieran.
Andre Kieran came across the line with a nose hanging off as well. So that's a bit of a surprise. So that may have been a result of being off the road up there at turn number 7. So that'll be an interesting story to see what happened there as they're all coming across the line. So healthy victory for pace. Blake Purvis managing to get back to 4th after that off-track moment. Clifford down to 5th. Jason Kay be very happy with that result in 6th place there. Michael Kinsella in 7th after a very, very spirited battle there in that top 3 or 4 positions for most of the race, but just that contact with Ash Clifford sending him down the order. Nathan Jones has held off Daniel Reynolds. That's a great drive from him. A very inexperienced first season campaigner for him to hold off the much more seasoned Daniel Reynolds there for 8th and 9th. And in Cam Bell, he's actually driven very well from the back of the grid. He was down in 19th. He's managed to get back inside the top 10 after we saw him with that nose cone damage yesterday afternoon.
So confirmation of your results on screen there. Simon Pace with a commanding 12.5 second victory over Brock Hamilton, who started just outside of the top 10. So a great drive from him. Also Ashley Whittington, Blake Purvis recovered to P4. Ashley Clifford rounding outside your top 5.
Over the page we go. You can see here Andre Curran, after being promisingly well and truly entrenched inside the top 5 or 6 spots, he's now come home in 11th place ahead of Grant Kelly there. Matt Harriott picked up 1 or 2 spots. David Temmie there in 14th. The other factory saber card, Declan Collison, in 15th. Charlie Richardson lost a spot from where she started. She started 15th and finished there in 16th. Mick Fisher ahead of Darren Power. Matt Ganji in the 1200. Ken Morrison rounding out the 20. Mitch Whittington, I think he got going again after his car became beached in the gravel trap at turn number 3, and likewise Malachi Windsor, he got going again as well, but they were quite some considerable margin down on the rest of the field, and the other 3 either did not finish the race or did not take the start. Well, that is the second race of Formula V run and won for this, the third round of the Victorian Trophy Tour. We'll see them just before 2 o'clock this afternoon for the final race of the weekend. We're going to take a short break here because coming up next, it's a 25-minute plus 1 lap affair for the AU4 Championship. Don't go anywhere.